sports.
We are live, Cam. I apologize. Thank God this is Cam Stewart, and it's not like Al Michaels waiting here.
Close.
Through 4 minutes of commercials. But hey, we got to pay the bills.
Support us by supporting our sponsors.
And by the way, how about Mike Hamilton? Great job.
How about it, man?
Amazing. He did a good job putting that new commercial compilation together. And you're in Chicago now. Still a family member here at Rogue Media, and I literally, Cam, have been dying to talk to you about a couple things.
Get well soon.
I need to. What'd you say?
I said, get well soon, brother. Jeez.
Why am I sick?
No, you said you were literally dying to talk.
Well, I was dying. So let's start with Bill Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get your thoughts on the Adam Schefter report yesterday that the buyout is laughable. So to me, what it seems like is this is I'm not saying like he's like a real deceptive guy where it's like this is like a manipulation deal, but this seems like a placeholder almost, like for an opportunity to come knocking.
It's one toe in, maybe even 1 foot, but not both feet in, man. This is like getting a job at some media network and keeping your radio show and splitting the day. Like you can't, you got to go 2 feet into this thing. And he's clearly, like he said, he put out all these reports, I say put out, you know what I mean? Like, people around him were, Bill's sick of the NFL. He doesn't want to do the NFL. He wants to prove a point to the NFL. And I was reading that, and I'm sure you were the same way of like, really? Because the guy's only coached in the NFL. He's, a couple of good seasons away from setting the all-time NFL wins record. I don't think this is a shove it move necessarily. And this buyout proves that by June of 25, he can be bought out for $1 million to go and coach in the NFL because he knows, he is going to get some calls here in a couple weeks. And it's now Bill's in a great position where for himself and I guess for some leverage, he can say, I've got a job coaching, but, you know what? I really don't mind the thing the Giants have going here. And they're going to give me some control. Like he can kind of pick from a position of strength here.
What do you see? Like, can you forecast this at all? Like your experience covering the Patriots, rooting for the Patriots for many years now, and you've gotten to know this guy pretty well. What does your experience and history with Bill Belichick say about this move?
It really says that I didn't see it coming at all.
Yeah.
Because we know that this guy is a coaching maniac. Like he's going to want to coach, but this is just, it's beneath him a little bit, no disrespect to Carolina. I like to do that, but no disrespect to Carolina. They're a middle of the pack ACC team. And this is the greatest coach in football history. It would be beneath him to coach at my alma mater at Baylor. You know what I mean? He's the 6-time Super Bowl winning head coach. It's just really weird. And I didn't see this coming at all. Even in those kind of final days where it was looking more and more imminent, it was like, really? Like Bill Belichick's going to do this? But if it does go through and we get past June 2025 and he's not bought out and he's not, coaching an NFL team and getting ready for training camp at that point, I think it's going to be an interesting experiment. And this goes to what I think about Belichick, because like once he is in, it's going to be his way with his guys, and he's earned that right. And so it really is going to be the first time we see a college program really run like the pros. Even those guys who went to the pros and came back to college, like they didn't, Pete Carroll didn't run USC like it was an NFL franchise. I guess, Saban had a good, really meticulous structure, but there's a huge difference in these games. And now you take the ultimate NFL guy, right, who has never coached in college. So the ultimate NFL lifer, you take him, you also couple him with the most curt media guy in the entire NFL because they're the same person. And now you put him in the college football landscape, which is just full of just BS, man. Like there's no more BS sport that we love than college football. It's going to be really weird, I think.
Do you buy into the like ineptitude of the owners in the NFL that are one of the reasons that we're here with this announcement, or living in this reality?
I mean, kind of. I still think I still think after all those, kind of excuses of the ownership that it's still beneath him to do this. But yeah, I mean, owners are weird, man, and it's the thing you can't control. You can't, hire and fire them really. And we are seeing more than ever because we're seeing more tanking than ever. We're seeing more bottom dollar than ever when it comes to NFL owners in terms of this salary cap era. And we don't need to look far. We obviously cover the Cowboys fairly closely for people who don't actually cover the team. We see how much of a mess that can be. And it's up and down. I mean, look, the Maras have owned the Giants since like the beginning of time, and they've got planes flying over their stadium telling them to fire the coach and fix this mess, calling out the ownership. And I've got plenty of problems with the Patriots ownership right now. Maybe it's because my team is faltering at that ownership level, but it feels like the owners are weirder than ever, so to speak.
How much does Bob Kraft have to do with this? Like, I'm not saying it was an all-out smear campaign, but it's very clear that these owners are weird. They compete against each other, but they all look out for each other, and they're all backslapping and trying to help each other out. And it's like, hey, like I get the impression, and it's not me, it's many people, right, that cover the sport and are very close to it, that there was a pretty bad review put out there by Bob Kraft, specifically last year to the Falcons.
The Falcons,
yeah. But yeah, and they were really like, that was trending in the right direction. The more and more we learn about all this stuff, that's why the aftermath of this stuff is so interesting, because we're learning just more and more about like the true, like disdain is a little, maybe a bit of a reach, but man, like between the Krafts and Bill Belichick, there seems to be no love lost. And that Dynasty documentary, which I loved, was like the nail in the coffin, because it really made Belichick look bad, or at the very least, not quite as significant as he was to all the championships.
Yes, and that all the bad things that came along with it were entirely his fault. And it was almost in that series like the Krafts trying to say, boy, I know we won a lot, but wouldn't you guys get tired too? Like that's what they were trying to prove to us through some nuance. And I'm like, I've just thought this the whole way, because Kraft does have a big part in this, man. It's one step away from a smear campaign, what he's done since Belichick has left. And I just find it very odd, because you don't have to say anything. Like we just saw a 4-13 team in Belichick's last year. They didn't make the playoffs the last 2 or 3 of the last 4 years he was there after Brady. And so you can sell fans on, hey, we're just trying to move on. We're just going to go in another direction here. But instead, it's like, look how great we are as the ownership group, and Belichick, and look at what the mess he put us in. And it's like, you're never going to win the battle with fans. Like you are never going to get those fans to turn on Bill Belichick. I mean, they were one of the laughing stocks of the NFL for 40 years. And then this guy comes in and they win 6 Super Bowls. Nobody's thinking, boy, if we didn't have this owner, like, you know what I mean? Obviously, Kraft had a role to play. I'm not saying he's like, he was just there cashing checks. Like, I do think it took something to trade for Belichick, trade a first-round pick to get this coach. But no one is going to turn on Belichick after he did. You might as well try to get them to turn on Brady. It's going to be the same thing. You're not going to win it. And that buyout that Belichick has before June, like that might as well be a Kraft clause, because he knows he's not going to be able to pass up a shot to coach in the NFL and coach against the Patriots. Like, you think You think the Dolphins
So you think that's great. I love that. So you think it's not so much about like the record even still, because Andy Reid could eventually end up getting that record too. Like it's getting pretty close. So like you think it's almost about the competition with the Crafts, and I'll show them almost.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because it's the same thing. I mean, he did the same thing to the Jets for a quarter century. Like he just made his life's mission with the Patriots, win Super Bowls and beat the shit out of the Jets every time. He never traded with them. He barely shook hands with them, and he wanted to crush them no matter if their playoff seeding was locked up or what. He wanted to beat the Jets. So there's no reason to believe he wouldn't do the same thing with the Patriots. And I look at a Dolphins team that's got a ton of talent and a coach that is what, like 3-14 against teams above 500 in his tenure with the Dolphins after they ran a coach out of town because he was too hard on the quarterback. You don't think that franchise would take a flyer on Bill Belichick? Hey, Bill, we've got the quarterback, brother. We've got the talent. And guess what? You can play the Patriots twice a year. We already beat the crap out of them every year anyway. Why don't you give this a shot? Like, he would love that. You couldn't get him out of Chapel Hill fast enough. He wouldn't even have time to rent the U-Haul. He'd be out. He'd be going and coaching the Dolphins tomorrow if that was the opportunity.
And I feel like it's almost for him. It's, hey man, if you can leave North Carolina better than where he found it, I mean, you're absolved there personally too. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, if he's already, we had a family friend, and this is going to bring me to my next point. I was with my mom this weekend, so we had a family friend. People that are, one of the kids plays the Pierce family. They're the best. So one of the kids plays lacrosse at North Carolina. They all came over. They didn't know that I was there, or maybe they did, but they wanted to help my mom get up Christmas decorations because she's like the old lady in the neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
So the Pierces are awesome. They come over. Their son, Grant, who plays lax at North Carolina, was shot out of a cannon about this Belichick thing. I mean, he was so
Belichick loves lacrosse.
Yes, being a lacrosse. I mean, this guy, he has pie in the sky dreams of like possibly ending up at dinner with Belichick. I mean, and he's talking about how it can help his team recruit lacrosse players and what it's done for the university and the excitement on campus. So I was like, wow, like he's already moved the needle in such a dramatic fashion for a school that's awesome, but a program that has been just irrelevant, right? Football wise.
Right. And with Carolina, like they're never going to be a football school. They're never going to be an ACC power. But we look at that conference. It's like SMU went into year one and went to the conference championship game. And that's not even a knock on SMU, but it's like, you know, this conference is more or less up for grabs. So we talked about this last week when we were initially talking about him taking the job. Like, what is success for him at Carolina? And it's probably making the ACC championship game. If you get there, you've got a shot at the playoff. I mean, we saw the loser this year go into the playoff. So, like, it's there. I mean, Clemson is not what Clemson was 5-6 years ago, but they're still pretty solid. SMU, I think, has got a good foundation. Louisville's had a good couple years. But think about the programs we're talking about. You know, that's not Florida State and Miami 20 years ago where you're like, oh, that's every year we got them. Like every year you're not going to be like, we're not talking about Ohio State and Michigan here. Okay. There's a shot to win big in the ACC.
All right, Cam.
Yeah.
I would love to piggyback off that, but we're up against the time.
No,
I know, because I could go with you forever, but I'm kind of like my family. Let me bring some context. My mom was the athletic director secretary for Ted Aceto, right? So she was what they would call now an administrative assistant, but she was a secretary for the athletic director for like 5-6 years. Right, the year after they won the title in '85, she took over. Then she ended up
Villanova, by the way.
At Villanova, yeah. Then she ended up taking over the student union building and running that. So she was always a fixture on campus, but like we got some ties here, right? Villanova wise, which means I'm sort of sourced up. So I get a guy over at our house, a big time donor of Villanova. First of all, telling me that millions of dollars are being taken off the table the longer the Villanova's head coach Kyle Neptune stays. Like we're talking $10 million. Like, no, I'm going to take that back.
Oh, damn.
And so they have lost 3 straight, and apparently, like he was out. They lost to Columbia, they lost to St. Joe's, and he was going to go. They were going to put this guy, Baker Dunleavy, Mike Dunleavy's kid, in charge to kind of see how he managed
The other Dunleavy kid.
Yeah. To see, he was at Quinnipiac for a while. So to see how he can manage things and then maybe move on to a bigger name. Okay, do you want to hear who the bigger name is? That will be the perfect fit at Villanova. And it's a huge swing, and it involves you.
Involves me.
Yeah.
Oh, Villanova. How does it involve me? Is there a Boston thing here?
Oh, yeah.
Brad Stevens.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Now,
can I real quick? Every time the last 3-4 years that a big time college job is open, be it Duke being one, Carolina being one, Villanova absolutely would have been one. My dad will text me and he'll say, the first call has to be to Brad Stevens, right? I mean, the first call. Indiana was a big one, right? And he's like, you might not take the job, but you have to call him. And he said this to me about, it must have been, it was last year about somebody. And I'm like, Dad, he's going to win Executive of the Year in the NBA. He doesn't even have to travel with the team. Like, it's a swing.
Does at some point, and look, I think that this is a great example of college programs and their donors just having no clue of who they are. But hey, look at North Carolina. It just worked for them. That epic swing worked. Yeah. So you always got to make the phone call.
Well, Belichick didn't have a job.
Yeah, that's a big part. That's what I agree with. Like, yeah, Brad Stevens has an awesome job.
But if you're, I would say this though, if you're Nova, like it's like that Kanye song, right? Reach for the stars. So if you fall, you land on a cloud. Like if Nova keeps taking big swings, like they're gonna get. I think they're gonna punch above their weight right now. Obviously, Villanova's a pretty great all-time program, but where they're at right now, and
it's bad, dude. They beat Cincinnati, but it's bad. Like I was talking to somebody, they were like, nobody's. A lot of these, even big-time programs, Baylor is. People do love Baylor and Waco, and the school gives a lot of support. But like, dude, that game last week on an 11 a.m. start, it was rough to the point where Scott Drew felt like he needed to address it in the postgame when I was doing radio. Like he was like, "Yeah, this is my fault. I screwed the schedule up. I'm supposed to be the Scream game." And okay, fine. But what was your excuse then on the Wednesday afternoon before Thanksgiving? I know those are games where, but the fans weren't there. At Villanova, it's like nobody's there on a Tuesday night. You know what I mean? Like in a big game.
I think they could, if they went the whole season, I think they could get a guy like Billy Donovan. Okay. I mean, things are not going well here for Billy here in Chicago. Yeah. So, I mean, he was rumored for some jobs last year. It's a guy who's a 2-time national champion coach in college and was looking like the next guy in college.
Would Brad Stevens ever leave the Celtics for a head coaching job?
I don't think the way it is right now, but you do have to remember this, Pete. I'll give you some hope. The Celtics are up for sale. Okay. They could be sold at any time. And if the owners are a bunch of pricks, I mean, it's possible. He would also get calls to be an executive somewhere else in the NBA, but it's possible.
Well, that's exactly, it kind of takes us full circle. That's exactly what happened with Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick with the Jets. Leon Hess died. They sold the team, and Belichick took the job for a day and left.
Bill loved Leon.
He did.
He liked Leon a lot.
Both Bills. All right, Cam. We got to wrap it up, dude. We've gone way over.
I'll be like that ref from the other day. Did you see that?
I did.
You didn't see that?
I know I did. I texted Mosley. By the way, for some reason I thought of Mosley. I texted Mosley yesterday about somebody who I really like. The person's kind of in Mosley's world, and Mosley responded with this person was an epic windbag. And I mean, it was like three things. Huge ego, windbag, loves himself. I've told you this before. I'm like, all right, I get it. All right, Cam Stewart, you can catch him on the Cam Show every day at 11 a.m. Central Time. He's in Chicago, where the time is still Central, where he's funnier than ever. And you can also catch him on Locked On Baylor. Dude, I got a Baylor game Cincinnati, Baylor, Cincinnati. So you got to have me on. So now you got to have me on.
That's one of the first ones in conference, right?
Yeah. It's a home game on like a Tuesday night. I think it's like January 4th or something, or 7th. Yeah.
7th sounds right. Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right, Cam. I'm here for you.
Sneaky good.
All right. See you, Cam.
Bye.
Hold on. And recording. Play out.
Okay.
It's the Pete Souza Show. Sports.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a